It has been proposed that the rashes and headaches that the residents of East Palestine are having are nothing more than stress. The intestinal problems, migraines, headaches, upper respiratory problems are some residents' problems caused by stress. I feel absolutely yes. Are some residents' problems caused by chemical exposure? Absolutely yes. Blanket statements don't fit when you are working with individuals, because individuals are so different and bodies are so different. If a resident's ailments are caused by the stress that they were put under from this derailment and subsequent explosion, that does neither lessen the importance of that person's condition, nor does it lessen the possibility of long-term health problems, both from stress, PTSD, and the long-term chemical exposure in our town. So if some of these symptoms can be attributed to stress, that doesn't make it, to me, any less important because than if it were due to chemical exposure initially. Because a lot of the symptoms that I had seen with patients initially are gone now. Sorry, I was just pulled over by a patient for a non-chemical bomb derailment question, and now I'm super late for work. But getting back, most of the patients that I saw that had symptoms that were definitely due to chemical exposure, those symptoms, even objective findings, are gone now. The little 2-year-old that was brought into my office, who was a patient prior to that, and before she was a patient, I saw her every visit with her mother as she would run around the room. Two things about that patient. Number one, that kid has always been so happy. That child is the craziest happy kid. Pretty sure that kid did not become stressed about the derailment. Was in such a state of stress that she created a rash running down from the midpoint of her neck down between her shoulder blades. So if that indeed was due to chemical exposure, and they live very close to the tracks, that rash is now gone. I just saw that little girl yesterday, and it's been gone for a couple weeks now. So initially, right after the blast, she had that rash, and it is now gone. Let's say you were really stressed about the derailment and you created these symptoms. They would seem to go away possibly at the same rate as the true chemical exposure went away, because it was very abrupt. The biggest amount of chemicals were in the air, water, and land at the moment that it happened, and now it is less, and it is long-term chemical exposure now. We don't know. We don't have any soil testing that we know of. I do know there's still chemicals in our creek. If we stay on the topic of stress causing people's problems due to the derailment, they didn't help by what they did. Norfolk Southern and the EPA allowed them, because they were observing from the beginning. By their own admission, they were right there on site. They let them put the railroad tracks over the contaminated soil and ran those trains right through. So everybody in the town was in shock. Everybody still talks about it. If you want to have people trust you, you don't do something like that. And that in itself is enough to cause people to get sick from stress. Now add that to the potential long-term stress of daily worry of whether your property and your land is contaminated with deadly chemicals, and the lies and mistruths we've been told through this whole thing, and the nice version of EPA and Norfolk Southern talk, like calling the deadly chemicals product, putting new tracks down over contaminated soil, I suppose they made a switch in the track and rerouted the train then to go around the tracks that they repaired, so that now they can make a small detour around that area of track that they laid down, and now they are digging it back up where they put the repaired track down. And that is a whole new bucket of stress for people, because as they dig, the smell is really bad, and that is stressing people out so bad that some even refuse to leave. As ironic as that sounds, they're so stressed they cannot pick themselves up out of their homes again and go to a hotel. It's just too stressful for them. They've pretty much given up. And let's not forget that the smell that those people smell, that the EPA in Norfolk Southern says do not worry about, it's nothing to see here, it's just a smell, it's not harmful, are the Norfolk Southern workers that became ill after working at the cleanup site. Are they faking it too? Is that what they're saying? It's all stress? So let's sum it up. If some patients are having symptoms, headaches, gastrointestinal problems, rashes, due to the stress and worry that was caused by this accident, and all the bungles and lies and disregard for patients' health by running trains for over 30 days over contaminated liquid and soil as it's seeping into the ground and not addressing our creeks and waterways. If some of those people are suffering from symptoms related to stress and ailments related to stress, and still potentially exposed to long-term chemical exposure in the water, ground, and air around them, I don't see that any less important than if those symptoms were initially caused by chemical exposure. And the doctors that are turning them away, I believe, is criminal. Not even to do regular blood work, wellness blood work, complete blood counts and complete metabolic panels, just to see if the patients are 100% healthy and nothing has happened to them, telling them that it's in their head and it's stress. Well, if you test a massive amount of people, you might get some hits that show damage. Maybe that's what they're doing, so that to avoid them all is to avoid the few that are going to show true damage. No idea. I have no idea. I do believe those doctors were preempted by some entity, whether it's the hospital, gotten to by, the corporations, or who knows who. But it is just not normal for a doctor during any regular situation, but even especially a crisis situation. Under emergency situations, your protocol changes a bit. So I'm late for work, and that's all I got on this for right now.